Okay, so we're diving into something I think a lot of us have experienced, and it's not fun. It's that frustrating feeling of hitting a weight loss plateau on keto. You're doing everything right, or so you think, but the scale just won't budge. So today, we're going to figure out why this happens, and more importantly, give you some solid strategies to get things moving again.
Yeah, that stubborn scale.
Ugh, it's the worst. We've got some great sources for this deep dive. Two articles, one from Diet Doctor, one from Healthline, and a super interesting YouTube video from keto expert Ben Azadi.
Awesome.
Ready to unpack this?
Definitely. And before we even talk about solutions, I think it's important to really define what a true plateau is. Because our bodies, they don't lose weight in a perfect straight line.
Tell me about it. One day I'm down a pound, the next day I'm up 2. It's like a roller coaster.
Exactly. And those daily fluctuations, they're totally normal. Diet Doctor, they really highlight this, saying we got to look at weight trends over at least 3 months, not just those daily changes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they even mentioned that Virta Health, they're a company that does a lot of research on keto. They point out that normal fluctuations can be several pounds.
Wow, several pounds.
So don't freak out if you see the scale jump around a bit.
That's actually really reassuring because I definitely get way too hung up on those daily weigh-ins. But it sounds like focusing on those non-scale victories, the NSVs, is even more important than we might think.
Absolutely, because focusing just on the scale, on that number, can be really misleading. And Diet Doctor makes a great point about this. Even if the number's not moving much, your body might still be making awesome changes.
So, what kind of NSVs should we be looking for beyond just the scale?
Well, think about how your clothes fit. Are they getting looser? How about your energy level? Do you have more stamina throughout the day? Are those cravings gone? And how are you sleeping? Waking up feeling refreshed.
I've actually been sleeping so much better since starting keto. I don't wake up feeling groggy anymore. Didn't even connect that to the diet at first.
Yeah, it can be subtle.
So cool. Okay, so we know plateaus happen, and the scale isn't everything. But why do our bodies decide to just hit the pause button on weight loss, even when we're being super consistent with keto?
Well, to understand that, we need to kind of dig into how our bodies lose weight. It's not just about calories in, calories out, although that plays a role. What we want is to lose fat, not muscle.
So it's not about starving ourselves.
Definitely not.
Thank goodness.
Diet Doctor, they're all about preserving lean body mass. And they talk about 2 key things for that. Getting enough protein and doing resistance training.
Okay, makes sense. Fuel those muscles. But let's talk about something that I know trips a lot of people up, myself included. Sneaky carbs. Carb creep. It's like the silent saboteur of keto.
Yeah, it's the worst. And all 3 of our sources, they talk about this. Even small amounts of hidden carbs can mess with your progress.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about bread and pasta. Those are easy to avoid.
Right, those are obvious. It's the sneaky one.
The ones in disguise.
Exactly. Think about sauces. Or those keto-friendly treats that maybe aren't so low-carb. Even some low-carb veggies if you're not careful with portions. They all add up.
I totally fell for the sugar-free dessert trap. Oh, it's sugar-free, it must be fine. So how do we avoid these sneaky carbs?
Well, being mindful of portions is key. And reading labels, even on stuff that says keto, don't just assume it's low-carb.
Always double check. Okay, carbs check. But what about protein? How much is too much on keto? I feel like I hear such conflicting things about this.
It's a great question. And Diet Doctor, along with Virta Health, they both say protein needs to be just right. Not too little, not too much.
Okay, makes sense.
Too little, and you're going to be hungry all the time. But too much protein can actually slow down your weight loss.
Wait, what? Too much protein is a bad thing?
Well, if you eat more protein than your body needs for building and repairing tissues, the excess can get turned into glucose.
Oh.
And that glucose, even if it's from protein, could potentially kick you out of ketosis.
So finding that sweet spot with protein is key. Don't go overboard. Speaking of things we can overdo on keto, let's talk about fat. I mean, isn't the whole point of keto that we can eat all the fat we want, bring on the bacon, right?
Well, not so fast.
Oh, no.
While healthy fats are super important on keto for feeling full and having energy, too much can actually slow down your weight loss.
So it's another too much of a good thing situation.
It can be. Ben Azadi actually talks about this in his YouTube video, specifically about things like bulletproof coffee or fat bombs.
Those delicious fat bombs should be more of a treat, not an everyday thing.
Exactly. It's all about listening to your body.
Okay, so we've covered the big 3, carbs, protein, and fat. But it's not just about the food, right? What about lifestyle stuff? Does that play a role?
Oh, absolutely. All of our sources, they talk about this. Things like stress, sleep, and exercise, they all matter.
Makes sense.
Diet Doctor, they actually talk about the impact of stress on cortisol levels.
Mm.
And cortisol is a hormone that can make you store more fat.
Ugh. So stressing about not losing weight can actually make it harder to lose weight. That's just mean.
It's a vicious cycle.
For sure.
And then there's sleep.
Sleep is my superpower. Or at least it would be if I actually got enough.
Well, Ben Azadi really emphasizes how crucial deep sleep is for fat burning.
Yeah.
He recommends at least 2 hours of deep sleep per night.
2 hours. That feels ambitious, but I get it. When you're sleep deprived, everything's off.
Totally. Your hormones get all out of whack.
So it's clear that taking care of ourselves mentally and physically is just as important as what we eat.
Totally agree. It's all connected.
It's a holistic thing. And speaking of different approaches, let's get into some more specific strategies for busting through a keto plateau. We'll explore those in part 2 of this deep dive, so stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into breaking through those frustrating keto plateaus. We've laid a lot of groundwork talking about everything from hidden carbs to the importance of sleep.
Exactly. And now I think it's time to get into some specific strategies for getting that scale moving again. You know, we touched on Ben Azadi's concept of keto flexing, but I think it deserves a deeper look.
Oh, I agree. This idea of intentionally bringing carbs back in to jumpstart your metabolism is super interesting. Kind of goes against everything I thought I knew about keto.
Right. It's definitely a bit of a different way of thinking about it. But Azadi, he makes a really interesting point. He says that when we stay in ketosis for a long time, like 6 months or more, our bodies can get really, really good at burning fat.
So that sounds like a good thing.
It is, at first. But Azadi, he suggests that this super efficiency can actually work against us eventually.
Oh, interesting.
Our bodies are amazing at adapting. If we're always in fat burning mode, our metabolisms can slow down to save energy.
So it's like our bodies are thinking, hey, fat is the only fuel we've got. Got to make it last.
Exactly. And that's where this keto flexing comes in. By strategically reintroducing some healthy carbs, we're basically telling our bodies, hey, we're not starving here, you can relax.
So it's like hitting the reset button on your metabolism.
That's a great way to put it. And Azadi, he's got the specific protocol, the 5-1-1 method.
5-1-1.
5 days of strict keto, then a 24-hour water fast, and then 1 day of intentional carb refeeding.
Okay, wait, water fasting. That sounds intense.
I know, right? But the idea is that the water fast helps deplete those glycogen stores and really gets your body ready for the carbs.
Okay, so what does the carb refeeding day look like? Is it just like a free-for-all, pizza, ice cream, all that?
Definitely not.
Oh, man.
It's about choosing healthy, nutrient-dense carbs. Think sweet potatoes, fruit, maybe some rice.
So not back to our old ways, but strategic.
Exactly. And Azadi says it's really important to pay attention to how your body feels during that refeeding day. You want to see those signs that your metabolism's revving up again, like more energy, maybe even a little increase in body temperature.
Interesting. I'm already thinking about how I could try this. I've been keto for almost a year now, so a little shakeup might be good.
Yeah, it's definitely something to consider, especially if you're feeling stuck. And, you know, if you're interested in like alternative approaches to keto, there's this other concept we could talk about.
Yeah.
The carnivore diet.
Oh, yeah, we touched on that before. Carnivore, as in just meat. That always sounds pretty hardcore.
It is. But Ben Azadi, he's got some really interesting arguments for trying it, at least for a short time, to help with those plateau issues.
Okay, I'm listening.
One of his big things is that carnivore eliminates all plant toxins. He believes those can cause inflammation and mess with your gut.
Yeah, I've heard about that, how some plant compounds can be irritating.
Right, and Azadi says that by taking those out of the picture, your body can focus on healing and getting your metabolism working better.
So it's like giving your digestive system a vacation.
Yeah, kinda. He even talks about how it can help your gut bacteria, which is so important for everything.
Okay, but isn't it hard to get all the nutrients you need if you're only eating meat?
It can be. That's why Azadi has like 4 different levels of carnivore, from the most strict, which is basically just beef and salt, to some more flexible options.
Oh, okay, so there's some wiggle room.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But he's really clear that you should talk to your doctor before trying it, especially if you have any health issues.
That's good advice. Always check with your doctor. So it sounds like carnivore, just like keto flexing, is more of a short-term strategy.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it.
But even if we're not going full carnivore, Azadi has some interesting things to say about certain foods we might want to rethink, even if they're technically keto.
He does, and this is where it gets a little controversial. He challenges some of the typical keto wisdom, especially when it comes to certain staple foods.
Oh, I love a little controversy. Spill the tea.
Well, one of his big ones is pasteurized cow dairy. He says that while some people can handle it just fine, for others, it can cause inflammation and digestive problems.
Really? I always thought dairy was a keto must-have.
It is for a lot of people. But Azadi says it's important to see how your body reacts. He also talks about high oxalate foods.
High oxalate, what are those?
They're these compounds found in some plant foods like spinach, almonds, and kale. Usually they're not a problem, but for some people they can bind to calcium and cause kidney stones.
Huh, interesting. So even healthy foods can have downsides.
It really depends on the person.
Makes sense. What else is on Azadi's watch list?
He also says to be careful with nightshade vegetables like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant. He thinks the compounds in them can trigger inflammation for some people.
No way, really. Those are some of my favorites.
I know, it's tough. But again, it's about paying attention to your body.
Hmm,
If you notice any issues after eating them, it might be worth cutting them out for a bit and seeing what happens.
good point. Anything else?
Yeah. Benazati also talks about artificial sweeteners, especially the ones in processed keto snacks. He says they can mess with your gut bacteria and maybe even make you crave more sweet stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Probably better to stick with whole foods.
Totally. And lastly, he cautions against too much vegetable oil, even the ones that are supposed to be healthy, like canola or soybean.
Wait, I thought those were good fats.
A lot of people think that. But Azadi says they're highly processed and can oxidize easily, which can lead to inflammation.
Wow, this is making me rethink my whole pantry. So many things I thought were good might actually not be.
That's a lot to process, I know.
Yeah.
But the main takeaway is to really pay attention to how your body feels, even with the healthy stuff, and experiment to see what works best for you.
That's great advice. This has been super eye-opening. We've talked about so much, from the science of plateaus to all these strategies like keto flexing, carnivore, and even rethinking those keto-friendly foods.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
And we're not done yet. We'll be back in part 3 to answer your questions and share even more insights on how to conquer those keto plateaus, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive on keto weight loss plateaus. We've covered a ton of ground, from hidden carbs to keto flexing to even the carnivore diet.
We have. But now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How can all of this knowledge help you break through your plateau?
I agree. It's time to put this into practice. And what better way than by answering some of your questions? We've gathered some of the most common ones from our listeners on social media.
Okay, let's hear them.
This first one's from Alex. They ask, I've been pretty strict keto for about a year. Great results at first, but I feel like I've hit a wall. Is it possible my body's just adapted to it and it's not as effective anymore?
That's a great question, Alex, and it really highlights something we've been talking about this whole time. How incredibly adaptable our bodies are.
That's right.
Remember that firewood analogy? Azadi, one of the experts we're looking at today, talks about how something similar can happen with our metabolisms on a long-term keto diet. Yeah, I remember.
If we're constantly giving our bodies mostly fat for fuel, they can get super efficient at burning it.
So efficient that they actually slow down the process to conserve energy.
Exactly. It's like they think, hey, fat's all we got to make it last.
Yeah.
And that's where strategies like keto flexing come in.
Right, give the metabolism a little nudge.
Exactly. By strategically reintroducing some carbs, we're telling our bodies, relax, there's plenty of fuel. So you can bump that metabolism back up.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on to Maria's question. She says, I'm so confused about protein on keto. How much is the right amount? I don't want to overdo it and sabotage my progress.
It's a common question, Maria, and the truth is, it's different for everyone. Your protein needs depend on things like your activity level, your body composition, even your goals.
No magic number.
Nope. But Diet Doctor and Virta Health, two of our sources today, they both stress finding that balance, that sweet spot with protein.
Okay, but how do you find it?
Well, you can start with the general protein recommendations for your weight and see how you feel. If you're starving all the time, you might need to eat a bit more. But if you're stalling on your weight loss, maybe try a little less.
So listen to your body.
Definitely. And remember, protein is super important, especially if you're doing any strength training.
Yeah, gotta feel those muscles.
All right, next question's from David. He says, is it normal to have tummy troubles on keto? I've been having some bloating and discomfort, even though I'm eating lots of fiber-rich veggies.
That's a good one, David. Keto can definitely lead to some changes in your digestion, even if it's really good for you in the long run.
Right. Remember, we're drastically cutting carbs, And that can impact our gut microbiome, all those trillions of bacteria in our gut.
It's like changing the whole environment in there.
Exactly. So some people might feel a little off while their bodies adjust.
Makes sense. But what about the fiber-rich veggies? Aren't those supposed to help digestion?
You'd think so. And fiber is important for gut health overall. But the type of fiber matters. Some, especially from low-carb veggies, can be hard to digest, especially when your gut bacteria are still adapting.
So should David just ditch the veggies?
Oh no, but try experimenting. Cooking your veggies might make them easier to digest. And adding in things like sauerkraut or kimchi can help introduce good bacteria.
Those are some of my favorites.
And of course, always stay hydrated. That's key for good digestion.
Okay, last question. This one's from Jen. She says, I'm feeling really discouraged. I'm doing all the right things on keto, tracking my macros, limiting carbs, even sleeping enough. But I'm just not seeing results. Maybe keto just isn't for me.
Jen, it's so frustrating when you feel like you're doing everything right and the scale just won't budge. But before you give up on keto, remember, everyone's body is different.
Right. No two people are the same.
First things first, are you sure you're actually in ketosis? Are you tracking your ketones? Sometimes we think we're doing everything right, but we might not be fully in that fat-burning state.
Yeah, it's worth double-checking.
Absolutely. And even if you are in ketosis, there are other things that can affect weight loss, like stress, hormones, even your genes.
It's not just about the food.
So don't throw in the towel yet, Jen. Try some of the strategies we've discussed. Keto flexing, adjusting your protein intake, paying attention to food sensitivities, and remember, the scale isn't the whole story. Look for those non-scale victories. More energy, better sleep, fewer cravings. Those are all good signs.
Absolutely. They mean your body's changing, even if the scale's being stubborn.
And if you're still struggling, don't be afraid to reach out to a healthcare professional or a dietitian who specializes in keto. They can help you figure out what's going on and make a plan that works for you.
Great advice.
And Jen, remember, you're not alone in this. We've all been there.
Okay, everyone, that's our deep dive into breaking through those keto weight loss plateaus. We covered so much, from the science behind it all to practical strategies you can start using today.
Remember, it's not just about the number on the scale. It's about finding a sustainable lifestyle that supports your health and makes you feel your best.
Totally. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media, share your thoughts, ask your questions, and let us know what topics you'd like us to explore next time.
Until then, happy ketoing.